Hi, I'm Sarah, welcome back. Today I'm here to talk to you all about February's Capsule Wardrobe. So I have the box here. Without further ado, let's go and get this unboxed and let's show you what we're going to be sewing up together today. Any guesses on what we could be making this month? This month's pattern is the Nielsen Jarrah sweater. Now I've picked this sweater because it comes in 4 variations and the size band is really good on this one. So the finished garment measurements on this one goes up to bust measurement 53 7/4, so it's a nice size band on this pattern. And then you've got options here. It's a modular pattern, and by that what we mean is you can pick a bodice that you like, you can pick a sleeve that you like, and you can pick a hem option and a collar option. So if I bring this slightly closer to, you can see that we've got 2 collar options. So we've got your regular collar and we've got your funnel neck collar. Then we have got 4 different hem options. So you can have a regular band on the bottom, you can have a curved hem, you can have a tie, or you can have a fold up hem. And then you've also got 2 sleeve options as well. So you've got your standard sleeves with your cuff on these 2 versions, and on this one here you have got your sleeve with a little bit of opening detail, and you can chop and change any of these. So if you like the bodice on view B, you can have that one, but maybe you like the sleeve that's on view C, so you can add that in, but you like the collar that's on view D, and mix them all together to get your perfect jumper pattern. So that's the pattern that's included this month. The fabric that we have picked to go with it is our beautiful cozy colours, and we've selected this beautiful petrol colour. This fabric is just so nice with a little flecks of colour. It really gives it a little bit of interest. And on the inside of the fabric, it's really nice and fleecy, perfect for a nice warm jumper, ready for those cool spring evenings. So along with your pattern and your fabric, we've also got some goodies in your box this month. So in your little bag here, you'll have some thread. So if you caught our newsletter this week, you will know that we have been raving all about this brand new Gutterman thread. This is the Gutterman Marrowflex thread, and it is a stretch thread. So if I just undo that for you, can you see the stretch in there? There's 80% stretch in this thread, which means that you can now sew jersey or stretch fabrics with a regular straight stitch using this thread in both the top and the bobbin, and you don't have to worry about narrow zigzags or lightning stitches anymore. Now, as you'll notice, the colour of this isn't quite 100% match to our Cozy Colours Petrol. When you open it up, it does match a little bit more. For me, the colour choice is absolutely fine, but it may not suit everybody. So what we've also done is we've also included a regular thread that is perfectly colour matched to the fabric, should you not wish to use a stretch thread, or should you wish for a slightly better colour match when you're doing any stitches that are going to be visible. But bear in mind, if you're going to use this regular thread, which is the shade 904, then you do need to use a narrow zigzag or a lightning stitch. If you're going to use the Marrowflex, which is the yellow thread, which is shade 189, this is the stretch thread, so you can use a regular straight stitch. We've also put in a little seam ripper for you. When was the last time that you had a new seam ripper? So the same way when we change a needle on a sewing machine, about every 8 hours of sewing, your stitch ripper also needs regular replacing. So that's just a little reminder that maybe it's time that you had a new stitch ripper. We've also put in some cotton tape. So cotton tape is great when you're sewing jersey fabrics, just to pop in the shoulder seams, just to stabilise those. Not so important with this thicker fabric that we've got here, but still it's a really, really nice thing to have in your sewing box, ready for when you're going to sew jersey fabrics. Then we've popped in some of the Violin seam tape interfacing. Now this is a stretch interfacing, so if I pull that you can see that that stretches, and this really helps with hems. So you've got a couple of meters of that in every box, and I will demonstrate how to use that a little bit later. And then the last thing that you'll have in your box is a packet of labels by Kylie and the Machine. Now we've selected an assortment of labels to go in the boxes, so yours may be slightly different than the ones here, and we've done that so that if you've got friends that get the boxes, you can mix and match your labels if you'd like to. So that's everything that's included in this month's box. Now I'm going to talk you through my tips and tricks so we can get this garment sewn up. As you can see on the illustration below, this jumper is designed to be oversized. So if that's something that you don't want within your jumper, then do make sure that you size down. Before you get sewing, do take your bust measurement and double check your finished garment measurement to see how much ease is in the pattern, to check that that's the right fit that you would like. Throughout this pattern, the designer uses a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, so do take particular care when you're sewing this together. It isn't the regular 5/8 that you will find in many patterns. This one is just a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of the variations for you today. The first thing that I am going to work on is this option here with this tie. Now this does come up a little bit shorter, so what I have done on mine is I have extended my pattern piece by 2 inches just to make my jumper a little bit longer rather than a cropped version. And I've done that simply by cutting through the pattern piece, putting a little bit of pattern paper in and taping my pattern piece to it, drawing a line 2 inches down and then taping the bottom of my pattern piece, making sure that I carry my grain line straight down there so that my pattern remains square. And make sure that you do that on the front and the back. This is the back piece and I've done the same on the front piece. So that is just something to bear in mind where you want your garment to finish. This option here is the longer option, and this option's longer as well, but these two are cropped. Okay, so as with all the patterns that are in our capsule wardrobe boxes, there is detailed step-by-step instructions in the booklet that you can follow through. Now I'm going to pick out a few things that you may find difficult and just help you along with a little bit of visual on those. So the first thing that we've done is we've got all of our pattern cut out. So as I've said, the first version that I'm going to show you is the tie version. So we've got that sewn together front to back, and we have got the sleeves inserted. And the thing that you may struggle with is the neckband. So I'm just going to talk you through how we're going to do that. So I've got some sample pieces cut here ready for you. So this is your neckband piece cut out in your fabric. And all we're going to do to start with is we're going to put the two short ends together, and then we're going to sew across here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here's one that I have done earlier, and all I've done then is I've pressed that seam allowance open, and now we're just going to pinch these together and we're going to match up all the edges all the way around, and we're just going to pop some pins in. So there is our neckband prepped, ready to go in. Now if you're going to do the funnel neck version, it's exactly the same process. The pattern piece is just bigger, so you're going to sew that down the two short edges, press that seam open, and then fold it in half and pin it all the way around. So that's your funnel neck and your regular neck made in exactly the same way. The bit you may struggle with is inserting these. So what we need to do is we need to find the quarters of our neck. So if I bring my jumper back in, first of all, what we need to do is we need to find the quarters of our jumper. So I'm going to match the two shoulder seams. I'll just pop a pin in there to hold them together. We're going to come down to the front of the jumper, and we're just going to mark the fold, and then we'll mark the fold there. Then what we're going to do, because if we hold this flat, can you see that the jumper naturally scoops down lower at the front? So the two shoulder seams weren't actually accurately our quarter points. So now we know that that is definitely the quarter point. We're going to match those two up. We're going to come round and we're going to pop a pin in. So walk those. And the quarter point should be just off from where the seam is. So if you can see there, it's just slightly off. So now we've got the 4 quarter points of our jumper. We need to do exactly the same with our neckband piece. And for this version, I'm just going to pop in the regular neckband. So I'm going to fold it over at that seam. We're going to come in, and I've got a pin there already, that red pin. So then I'm going to take the red pin and match that over to the seam on this side. I'm going to take one of these pins out. These other pins out now. There we go. So we've got our neckband that's now also quartered. So what I would do now is I would turn the jumper inside out. Because we want the seams to be inside the jumper. I'm going to find the seam on my neckband and I'm going to match that to the back quarter point of the jumper, which is that one there. Then I'm going to come around. I'm going to match the 2 pins together, so we'll put them there. Take out one pin. And then we'll come round, do exactly the same. So match the 2 pins up, take one pin out, hold that in, and the same here, match the 2 pins up, take one pin out. Okay, so that is our neckband loosely in. Now what we need to do is we need to stretch the neckband and ease it into place. And we've got these quarter points to work with. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the neckband and I'm just going to ease this up and pop some pins in. You want to keep all 3 layers joined up. Now this neckband isn't too tricky to get in. Some of them you've really got to pull them to get them to go in, but this one's not too bad. Okay, so that's the first quarter eased in. Now I want you to do that for the remaining quarters and then I'm going to join you back. So now we've pinned that neckband in all the way, joining up those 3 layers. We're going to sew that round now with a 1/4 inch seam. And then I'm going to come and show you that finished. There's the neckband now nicely inserted, and I've just given that a little press and it's lying beautifully flat. Now the pattern book does tell you to then do a row of top stitching around the neckband just to hold that seam allowance down. Now I'm not going to bother because the seam allowance is only a 1/4 inch. It is incredibly narrow and that's not going to annoy me, but if it does, then you can just pop a row of stitching around there for you. So we're going to carry on now, get this sewn up. We're going to sew down the side seams and we're going to pop our cuffs on in exactly the same way we've just done with the collar. in your boxes you would have had some of this flexible seam tape interfacing. Now on one side you will see that it's slightly textured and on the other side is smooth. The textured side is the glue side. So we're going to place that down on the hem of our jumper right next to the end, and we're going to iron that on. We will do that all the way around, including around these tie sections if you're doing the tie sections, or if you're doing the regular turn-up section. If you're going to do the version with the cuff on the bottom, then you don't need to do this. You will just pop your cuff on in exactly the same way you have done with your sleeves and with your neckband, and that'll be your jumper finished. This is just for the tie option that we're doing here, the option without a band on here, and the curved hem. We're going to use this method. So now we've ironed that all the way around, including around this bend. Now don't be afraid to iron a little bit, snip it, start again. I think I did a piece to here, and then I put a little piece here, and then I carried on around this curve. The seam tape flexed around the rest of the curve, but that was a little bit intense for the flexible seam tape interfacing, so I did just snip it and reposition that. So what we're going to do now into here is just make a few snips, not going past the seam tape interfacing, and that's just going to allow us a little bit of wiggle ready to get this hemmed, so don't be scared. Okay, so that's just going to help us narrow. It's going to help us get around that curve when we're hemming. So when we're going to do the hem, all we're going to do, now we've got this seam tape on, is to just fold in. If I just bring that a little bit further up for you, we're just going to fold the seam tape down, and that's what we're going to use for hemming. And then when we get to this curve, we'll just pop those all back, and we will just sew nicely around there. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back to you and I'll show you what that looks like. So there we have it. I've folded the hem up and used that tape as the guide all the way around, including the curve. So that's what your curve should look like on the inside. And then I've just given that a really good press, and then that's ready to get tied up. Just like that. So just to recap, this method of hemming, you would use it on this version C here, like I've just demonstrated. You would also use it on the curved hem on view B, and you would use it on the hem on view D. If you were going to do the hem on view A, that goes in exactly the same way that we put our neckband in that we demonstrated. And if you were going to do the sleeves on view B and view D, again, you would use this method, and you would use that on your hem. I hope you've really enjoyed this sew along. I'm going to pop mine on now so you can have a little look at it in real life. And here she is, the finished Jarrah jumper on. I absolutely love her. The sleeve length with the cuff on is absolutely perfect. The neck is really nice. If I untie this, you can see what it's like untied. So there you go, and then we just pop it in two little ties. Now if you remember from the beginning of the video, I added 2 inches to the length of mine, and I'm really pleased that I did, because although when you tie this it naturally wants to come up a little bit, it gives it that more kind of like blousey feel, and I just feel a little bit more comfortable with that, especially kind of when you sit down. So yeah, really happy with that. Super comfortable. I've just got it teamed up with a pair of leggings today, that kind of classic work from home look. It's really nice and warm. I haven't actually got a t-shirt on underneath it because we are kind of coming into that transition of that spring, and the fleeciness inside the fabric is just really nice and soft against the skin. So I hope you're going to enjoy making yours. So as a treat, I've also made another variation for you, so I'm going to pop that one on now, and then I'll come back to you. And here we are. Here is the second version that I've made. So that one that I've just had on was view C. This one is the bodice of view B, but the neck of view D, just so I can show you what those look like. So again, sleeve length is exactly the same. This one has just got the curved hem at the front and the back. So if I turn to the side, you'll probably see that a little bit better. So it curves up to the side and then round to the back, and then it comes down kind of just below the bottom. And then the neck is kind of the funnel neck, so it's in this fabric in particular, it really stands up and looks really nice. Again, super comfy. I like the fact that it's not too clinging in the tummy. It's really quite nice and loose, and again, just got that teamed with a pair of leggings. I really like the detail on the side, the way that it just comes up. I think it just provides a little bit of interest while still covering the bottom. And so yeah, really enjoyed making both of these jumpers, and can see lots more of these appearing in my wardrobe, and I hope you can too. I hope you've really enjoyed making your Jarrah sweaters with me. If you didn't manage to get one of our boxes, I will pop a link below of the pattern and the fabric, and there may even be some boxes left. So do check that out, hit subscribe, make sure you follow us, and I'll see you next month ready for our next pattern. And it's a good one, trust me. If you don't subscribe, head on over to the website, because next month it's a brand new pattern that's not even on the market yet.